Good evening, everyone. My name is Brahmachari Jemal, and I'm very happy to be here with you this evening. And this evening we'll discuss a bit of a strange topic, one that maybe people don't talk about very much, but I'll tell you why I felt to talk about it this evening. There's someone up in the NCR, and her father has brain cancer. And she's been asking for me to pray. Of course, I've been praying. But in an email that she wrote, she said that one of her father's main concerns right now is fear of death. And I felt more than even the power of prayer, and prayer is a very powerful thing, but that he could overcome his fear of death, that there's not a need to have that. So there's a few shlokas here that I asked her to read to her father, and I'll read these now, and then we'll just talk about these, and we'll think about it. So the first is, they're all in chapter 2, and this is the 22nd stanza. Just as a person removes a worn-out garment and dons a new one, so the soul, living in a physical body, removes and discards it when it becomes outworn, and replaces it with a new one. And then 224 is, the soul is never touched. It is immutable, all-pervading, calm, unshakable. Its existence is eternal. And the last ones that I will read are 226 and 27. Even, however, if you prefer to think of the self as perishable, why grieve? What is born must die. Whatever dies must be born again. Why lament that which cannot be avoided? So first, it's a very simple analogy. It's our body is like a suit of clothing that we put on. And for me, that it just makes me feel much better. That if something goes terribly wrong with this thing, it's okay. That I don't need to worry about it. That I can get another one and another one. And so really the point of this is for us to feel that there isn't much for us to worry about. That if we can overcome the fear of death, I think that's one of probably the major fears of most people. And if we can overcome that fear, then we can go through life in a state of fearlessness. Now that doesn't mean that we'll go through life recklessly and doing silly things where we might damage our body or doing things where we might hurt others, because yes, there's still karma. And in fact, if you begin to think about this a lot, that we can come back again and again, and we will come back again and again in a new body after a new body, we begin to think, wait a second. That, okay, I've overcome the fear of death, that's no big deal now, but what about coming back again and again and again? As Brahmachari Yogananda said, that can take on an anguishing monotony. And then we begin to wonder, how is it that we get off of this cycle, this wheel of life and death? And you know that on this circle, on this wheel of life and death, that most people think it's another topic in the topic of death. Well, things might be bad right now, but when I die, then something better will happen. And it very well may be true, that you very well may go to a high astral realm, and things will be better there. But if there is any lingering desire for anything in this physical world, it will be dragged back down here again. And so, death really, it's not the escape that it seems to be. It's not that it's going to just all get better in the future and that we don't have to do anything. That we do have to do something. And we have to make a conscious act to become better human beings now, while we have these physical bodies, that we know that we need to be meditating and need to work more on ourselves. It's not so much that this world needs to change. In fact, Brahmachari Yogananda said, the world is neutral, that circumstances are neutral, that it's we who need to change, and we need to learn to obviously gain control over the reactive process and over our likes and dislikes in this world. And so, death, it's not going to just simply erase everything and make everything better. In fact, Jesus Christ said the kingdom of heaven is within you. But as you begin to ponder that, we can think that there's many universes within us, and that's fine, that that's going beyond this illusion of space. But even higher than that is that the kingdom of heaven is here and it's now. And so, this brings us to that getting to this point where we feel that everything is quite all right, and feeling a sense of freedom within ourselves, that it's not a circumstance that's going to happen to us in the future. It's a state of consciousness that we can learn to have that state of consciousness right now. That you can be happy, you can be free right now, if you want to be, if you choose it. But if you wish, you can choose to be miserable. But the choice is yours. And so once you decide to make that choice within yourself, that I'm going to choose to be happy, that I'm going to choose to have this feeling of freedom right now, then you can have it. And then the power is in your hands. Isn't that a beautiful thing? Because for many lifetimes we go on thinking, oh, it's that guy's fault. If I only had a little bit more money, and if I only had this, then I'd be happy. And through all those incarnations, we work to improve ourselves, to gain the power, to gain the willpower, to gain all of those things. But at some point, we begin to realize all of these things aren't making me happy. And that somewhere happiness must lie within my own self. And then we begin to take up a practice of Kriya Yoga, take up a practice of meditation, take up practice of affirmation, where we can tell ourselves that no matter what this crazy world throws at me, I'm going to be happy no matter what. And as we begin to do that, we begin to realize that this consciousness that I'm talking about, this Christ consciousness, it's within us all the time. At the beginning I played a chant, my Krishna is blue, the Tamil tree is blue. And that refers to this blue light that we may see on the inside as we go deeper and deeper in meditation. But also that chant says, when I die, do put me high on a branch of the Tamil tree. Now, you might think that, oh, it's at that state of death that when it comes, that's when you'll achieve realization. But it's not like that. Well, it is like that, and it isn't like that. But again, I want to tell a brief story, even though I don't have that much time. And there was a man, and he thought that he was told if you die in Varanasi, that you will achieve moksha, that you'll go to the highest levels of heaven. And this man was a dacoit. He was a thief. He treated all kinds of people badly throughout his whole life. I have a plan that when I die, I'll go to Varanasi, and then I'll die along the holy banks of the Ganges, and then I'll go to heaven. No problem. So as he was nearing old age and nearing the point where death was going to come, he went to Varanasi. And to ensure that no wild ideas got in his mind, and maybe he might go to visit some relative or do something different right before death, he asked his friends to cut off his legs and then put on the tourniquet, and somehow maybe he had a friend who was a surgeon. I don't know. But the surgery went successfully. He then had no legs. He thought, now there's no way I can ever leave Varanasi, that I'm going to die here. I'll go to heaven. I've cheated the system. And so then a man came, and he was riding a horse, and he was riding this horse very terribly. It almost looked like he was going to fall off. And this thief said, who are you? Who taught you how to ride a horse? You're riding it so terribly that even with no legs, I could ride the horse better than you. And the man, who was the novice horse rider, said, well, okay, try. And so he picked up the man with no legs and put him on the horse. And as soon as he did that, the man with no legs, the horse just bolted. And the horse went beyond the two rivers that make the boundaries of Varanasi. And the horse jumped over this river, went crazy, threw the man off, and he died, not inside Varanasi. And the point of this is that we're not going to cheat the system, that we have to be practicing every day to achieve this state of consciousness that Krishna had. That when we die, really this death means an ego death. That it is our ability, our desire to want to give everything, and especially to give our ego back into the hands of God. And if we can have that kind of death, it doesn't matter if we live another 80 years in this body or if we go tomorrow. That is the consciousness that I'm trying to talk about this evening. That is the consciousness of freedom that is open to us all. It's open to us right now. But before we even can get rid of our desires, before our ego, that there's these desires that come in and they just have us bound. Once I have this, once I have that. And we have to get ourselves at least enough free from desires where a little bit of light comes. And then we realize, oh yes, desires aren't working whatsoever. And so we begin to try to get rid of desires, but then we realize even that is so difficult. And we realize the ultimate thing to get rid of is the ego. The ego is the post that holds all these other cords of desire. And that we can learn to get rid of ego really through prayer, through self-offering, in seva, and in deep meditation. And in deep meditation, yes, we want to practice the techniques, they're very helpful. But the point of all of the techniques is so that we can open our heart to God. And so we can, in that state with an open heart, be able to offer first all of our desires, be able then to offer every thought, be able to offer all that we are. And again, in that state, we don't care whether we live for another day or 1,000 years. Master has a chant, 1,000 years or until tomorrow. I'll wait for you, just you. And so that's a state of consciousness. That's an attitude that we go with. And then we're not worried about other things. A few more things that I want to read and then we'll wind up. This again comes back to this state of consciousness that we're trying to practice, this attitude that we're trying to have. So the soul is never touched. It is immutable, all-pervading, calm, unshakable. Its existence is eternal. And that is who we truly are. But in order to remember that, we can begin practicing these attitudes now. We can practice having a feeling of calmness at all times, being unshakable amidst the crash of breaking worlds. And also we do want to try to practice having a consciousness that is all-pervading, that we want to go beyond the little confines of this ego. We want to realize that we are within everyone. If we have that understanding even a little bit, then we'll want to treat each other as brothers and sisters. We won't want to do harm to one another. We'll want to live in harmony with all people, with all things, with all creation. So that's an attitude that we have. Then I like it so much that Krishna says, look, even if you can't handle this huge consciousness that's all pervading and that's all loving and that feels that it's immortal and eternal, then just look at it this way. Even if you think of yourself as perishable, why grieve? That Krishna in here says so often, do not grieve, why lament? And again, that's an attitude, but it's an attitude we can pick up right now. No matter what's happening, it's all right. It's his show. That he's the director, he's the one who put us in this mess, and he's the one who's going to take us out. All we have to do is love him, and just have to accept he knows what he's doing, that he's giving everybody exactly what they need, including us, the good and the bad, and that we'll learn our lessons, and that eventually we too will become as great as Krishna. Some days that's really hard to believe, that we're just slogging through this thing going, oh my gosh, okay, another day, and I'll wake up and put my clothes on and do meditation and go to work, and here we go again. And our attitude, let's face it, isn't sometimes the greatest. But it's all right. It's even that if we just make it through the next day, this day, the next day will come. We can go to bed saying, tomorrow's going to be the greatest day of my life. And then if we hold that deep as an affirmation, then we can wake up and say, all right, here it is, the greatest day of my life. And we won't grieve. And we can hold this in our minds, that we are immortal. But even if we can't see, even if we're not relating enough to the soul, we're still relating to this body, what is born must die. What dies must be born again. As I was reading all of this and preparing, I was thinking, now wait, but Babaji, he looks like he's immortal, that he looks like he's going to be in his body forever. But think about forever. Forever is a very, very long time. If you read the autobiography carefully, Babaji will be in his body for ages, I believe it says. But even that, it's finite. At some point, that body will have to go. And then another body will have to come up. And if you begin to think about that, it takes you to who you truly are. That you're not just in this body, that you're in all bodies. And that this is a cycle that's always ongoing, life and death. But we can begin by having a deep understanding of life and death to realize we're something above life and death. And, Swamiji would say, he'd say a couple things that come to my mind. One is, never grow old. And it's an interesting thing to think about, okay, what does that mean? But then the other thing is that Swamiji would say, if you really think about how old you are, that it will take you to becoming one with God. And it's an interesting kind of mental road to run down when you have a few minutes late at night when there's something to think about. If you really begin to think, how old am I? And so I'll leave that to you in your own mind, but I'll let Paramahansa Yogananda answer it for us a little bit too. When he chose a reading, it's called As Old as I. Find this thing here. It's the Topara section of reading. Let's hope it works for us. Here we go. So this is by Swami Yogananda before he was a Paramahansa, and it's called As Old as I. I am older than the first vapors of heaven, or the first baby star that was born out of the womb of the blue heavens. I was born before life opened its eyes on earth's cradle. I was born, and my mind worked beneath my skyey skull. My thoughts spread in the veins of the all-pervading cosmic rays and tingled in the space cells of my finite body. I breathed the breath of life into everything. I am the oldest in existence, for it is my one self, my one memory, which has been thinking through all the human brains of all incarnations in all eternity. Yes, it was I who sang through the birds of centuries, and I who played the flutes of atoms. It was I who made the ornaments of diamond planets, ruby starlets, and blue sapphires to decorate my skyey body. Yes, I slept many times, in many lives, in caves of diamonds, in the bower of rose petals, in the breasts of bluebirds, and in countless babies. But as I awoke in the omnipresent minds of supermen, I remembered that I was the same one, the oldest, the one who had been thinking, working, laughing, coming and going, and waking and sleeping in the bowers of countless brains. All souls who have known this know that they too are as old